Right now, while most people are scrolling, driving to work, or watching the news, something historic is quietly happening in California. Construction companies are packing up and leaving the state at a pace we haven't seen in decades. Not because of earthquakes, not because of wildfires, not because demand disappeared. They're leaving because the financial logic of building in California has collapsed. The numbers don't work anymore. And the people running the system either don't understand that or refuse to admit it. What's happening isn't a political argument. It's an economic evacuation unfolding in real time. And the consequences won't stay inside boardrooms. They're going to land on roads, housing, power grids, hospitals, and every family that depends on them. I'm Ronaldo, and this is where we investigate what most outlets avoid, the part where policy meets reality. If you value journalism that connects the dots and follows the money, hit subscribe, like this video, and drop a comment telling me this. Do you think your state could be next? Because what's breaking in California won't stay in California. Here's the core idea. California has built a regulatory and cost environment so hostile to construction that large and mid-sized contractors are closing offices, relocating headquarters, and refusing bids at accelerating speed. This isn't ideology, it's arithmetic. When compliance costs rise faster than profit margins, when timelines stretch beyond financing windows, and when legal risk becomes impossible to insure, businesses don't protest. They leave. And when the companies that build your roads, housing, power systems, and hospitals leave, everything those systems support starts to fracture. Let's rewind 18 months. In late 2024, California lawmakers passed something called the Infrastructure Equity and Environmental Accountability Act. The name sounded safe and responsible, but the mechanism was explosive. The law created a new three-tier environmental review for any construction project over $5 million. Not just the traditional environmental review, but two more layers stacked on top: a climate impact assessment and a community equity impact study. Each layer required new consultants. Each layer required public comment periods. Each layer required approval from newly created oversight boards. Translation: projects that once took about 14 months to permit now take nearly 3 years. And every month of delay costs real money. Contractors keep staff on payroll. They service loans. They hold land. They juggle subcontractors whose schedules stretch and snap. Within 6 months, the average pre-construction timeline in California jumped 162%, not 16, 162. Then came the cost side. The same law expanded prevailing wage rules to projects that had never been covered before. It created a new labor enforcement division with the power to audit contractors retroactively for 7 years. Penalties started at $50,000 per violation. One project can generate dozens of violations from paperwork timing, classification disputes, or reporting mismatches that have nothing to do with actual wage theft. By early 2025, the shift began quietly. A Sacramento contractor with 30 years in business announced it was closing its California office and moving to Nevada. A San Diego builder told investors it would stop bidding on public works projects. Then another. Within 90 days, 12 major construction firms with over $4 billion in combined revenue either relocated, downsized, or exited California entirely. The governor's office called it market adjustment. But construction isn't software. You can't just spawn new builders. These firms had decades of experience: supplier relationships, bonding capacity, insurance systems, and equipment fleets worth hundreds of millions. When they leave, that capacity doesn't magically regenerate. By mid-2025, the exodus accelerated. Trade associations warned the governor that California contractors were now spending 23 cents of every dollar on compliance and administration. The national average is 9. That extra $14 per hundred doesn't disappear. It comes out of bids, wages, and survival margins. The state formed a task force. It met twice, issued vague recommendations, and went quiet. Meanwhile, reality kept moving. In July 2025, California put out bids for a $280 million highway expansion. Normally, that draws 15 to 20 bids. It drew 3. The winning bid came in 41% above estimates. Translation: taxpayers paid massively more because competition vanished. Then came the employment domino. When large firms leave, mid-sized firms lose contracts. When mid-sized firms struggle, small shops collapse. And when small shops fail, workers lose livelihoods. By August 2025, construction employment in California dropped 7%. That's 46,000 jobs. Not statistics. Families, mortgages, careers. Meet one of them. David Carrillo, a third-generation electrician in Fresno. His grandfather wired homes after World War II. His father built a contracting business. David took over in 2018 with 11 employees. When permits slowed, jobs stalled. Crews sat idle. Payroll bled cash. Then bonding rules changed. Insurance premiums tripled. David couldn't absorb it. By December 2025, the business shut down. 11 jobs gone. 3 generations ended. And that story repeats across California. Concrete companies closing, mechanical firms auctioning equipment, paving companies filing bankruptcy. These aren't corporations. They're families. Now comes housing. California already has a housing crisis. You can't solve it without builders. But builders won't build where risk exceeds return. By late 2025, housing permits dropped 19%. Construction starts fell 23%. In San Jose, a 360-unit mixed-use project had financing, approvals, and support. Then new reviews added 19 months to the timeline. Interest costs exploded. The developer canceled it. 360 homes erased. Multiply that statewide. Every canceled unit means higher rent, overcrowding, or families leaving the state. The housing crisis isn't accidental. It's engineered by financial impossibility. Now infrastructure. California passed massive funding bills for roads, bridges, water, and energy. But here's the irony. The money exists, the projects exist. The contractors don't. In 2025, the state spent only 41% of allocated infrastructure funds. Not from politics, from paralysis. Bids weren't coming in, or they were unaffordable. Power grid upgrades stalled. Pipeline projects canceled. One Central Valley water project received 0 bids. 0. 500,000 people lost planned water security overnight. Let's humanize it again. Laura Jimenez is a nurse in Stockton. She drives 40 minutes each day over a bridge classified as structurally deficient for 6 years. Funding exists to replace it, but bids keep failing. Every day she crosses it wondering if today is the day it breaks. Multiply Laura by hundreds of thousands. Now the third domino. As infrastructure weakens, businesses reconsider California entirely. Manufacturers need logistics. Tech needs power and water. Retail needs roads. When foundations crack, everything above them wobbles. In 12 months, over 80 companies announced major relocations out of California. And the irony? The law was supposed to protect workers, create equity, and build sustainability. Instead, it destroyed working-class jobs, raised costs for the poorest residents, and froze the very projects underserved communities need most. Good intentions don't build bridges. Builders do. So where does this go? A state of 40 million people can't thrive if it can't build, repair, and maintain itself. Right now, California is running an experiment in economic self-harm with no off-ramp in sight. Leadership doubles down. Contractors leave, workers suffer, projects stall. Let me be clear, this isn't anti-regulation. Environmental protections matter. Worker protections matter. But when regulation ignores cumulative impact, enforces without flexibility, and shields decision-makers from consequences, it stops protecting and starts destroying. Let's recap. California tripled permitting timelines. Compliance costs exploded. Contractors exited. Competition collapsed. Projects stalled. Housing fell. Infrastructure froze. Jobs vanished. Families paid. That's not politics. That's mechanics. And here's the warning. Other states are watching. The language sounds good. Equity, accountability, sustainability. But execution decides reality. Follow California's model, and you get California's results. So here's my accountability question. When do leaders admit they were wrong? When do they fix what's broken? Or do they just keep blaming businesses while families bleed? If this made you think, subscribe, drop a comment. Ask yourself, could your state be next? Because the construction exodus is accelerating. More companies are packing right now. More workers are losing livelihoods. And the final chapter hasn't been written yet. Stay with me. We're going to keep following this until someone is forced to answer. I'm Jenny Ronaldo, and this investigation is only beginning.